Afternoon, everybody. My name is Stella Mayer, and I'm the Director of Alumni and Constituent Engagement at Wilkes University. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the third installment in our Kernel Connections series. Kernel Connections are online webinars designed to bring lifelong learning opportunities to Wilkes alumni, no matter where you live, so you can tune in and connect with our distinguished faculty and alumni on a variety of topics. Our past webinars are available on our Wilkes Alumni YouTube channel. Today's webinar is being recorded and will also be added to the channel in the next few days if you'd like to refer to it later, or if you just have a great time and want to share it with your friends and colleagues. Today's Kernel Connection is titled, "And the Tony Award Goes to," looking at Broadway's favorite darlings and its rising stars. As a theater major and Broadway nerd myself, I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, who will be walking us through those topics and then taking your questions. Alison Morooney is a director and choreographer with a background as a professional performer of musical theater. She has an MFA in directing and a BFA in musical theater, both from Penn State, and she's been an assistant professor of musical theater at Wilkes University since 2022. She's directed Between the Lines, John Proctor as the Villain, Fun Home, Carousel, and Little Women here at the Dorothy Dart Center. Just a few housekeeping tips before we get started. Please make sure to remain muted throughout the webinar unless you're called on to ask a question. If you have any questions as you go, feel free to put those in the Q&A or the chat during the presentation, and we will make sure to address all of them at the end. Thank you again so much for joining us today, and I will go ahead and turn it over to our speaker, Alison.
Thank you, Stella. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to have you here today. I was going to introduce myself, but Stella did that for me already, so we'll just dive right in, which is awesome. I want to start with a little poll, a little audience participation, if you would. So we'll see if I can, yes, launch these polls. There's just two quick questions. So the first thing I want to know is who's seen one or more Broadway shows in the last year? Some of them might be some of the shows we're going to talk about today. Some of them might be shows that have since closed or were part of last year's Tonys, but just to get a sense of like where we're at as a group. And then I want to know, are you all like avid Tony Award watchers, or do we have some novices? Do we have some people who maybe this will be their first time watching the award ceremony, which by the way is this Sunday, and I'll remind you at the end, this Sunday at 8 p.m. is the Tony Awards. Let's see. Oh, good. So many people have seen a Broadway show in the last year. That's amazing. Good, good, good. And most of us are living somewhere in the middle. Sometimes we watch, sometimes we don't. Full disclosure, I am definitely a person who watches every year. I have a party and I do a pun-filled, embarrassing food menu for all the shows that are nominated. So I am ramping that up, and I hope that today's presentation gives you an opportunity to maybe be excited about the Tonys. And if you've never watched them before, maybe this will be the year that you start. One last question for you all, if you could hop in the chat as well. And what is your favorite piece of theater you've seen in the last year? It can be Broadway, it can be off Broadway, it can be in a different city, it can be you went home to your high school and you saw something that you loved. Just pop that title in the chat. Could be a musical, could be a non-musical. Where did we come from away? Yes, that's so amazing. Did you see that up at Scranton?
No, I saw it in New York about maybe a year or two ago.
Very
I think
cool.
I went in with no expectations, and it was just very impressive and uplifting. And
Yes, I love that show. Caleb, Merrily We Roll Along, also a favorite. Hadestown, Jacob, yes, I see you. Take Me Out, is that the baseball one? Yeah, I heard that was so good. I didn't get to see it, but I heard it was amazing. Limpika, yes. A short-lived musical that was really, really stellar. Thank you, Callie, for that. Awesome. These are all great titles, but no titles that we're going to talk about today, which is also very, very cool. Thanks for helping me get to know who's here. I really appreciate it. It helps me contextualize everything. So let's jump in then to my lecture. I'm going to share my screen. Some of these people on this call are my students, so you'll know. Cheer me on as I try to remember how to use Canva. You all taught me this. Okay. So we're going to talk about Tony Awards. We're going to focus on the actors who are nominated for Best Performance. There are, of course, also nominations for actors with featured performances. as well as obviously a numerous number of other categories, but we're going to focus on the folks who are nominated for Best Leading Performance. We're also going to focus mostly on musicals because, as Stella mentioned, I'm definitely a musical person. We will touch on some plays as well, but that's just sort of where my heart lies. Before we get into those folks, though, I did want to give just like a very brief sort of history of the awards and where they come from. And since we're focusing on the stars of the Tony Awards, I wanted to focus on the namesake of the Tony Award. And this picture here that you see is this woman. Her name is Antoinette Perry. She was an actor, director, and producer, and she has a really, really cool story. Early on in her life, in her marriage actually, she was secretly behind her back investing in theater. Her husband had no idea. He is this like mogul CEO. He's very, very, very wealthy, but she's investing in theater sort of in secret. She was really good at it. Her shows were really successful. And once her husband found out, he was like, okay, this is good. I'm going to do this with you. So then they became sort of a duo. But very tragically, her husband passed away very young of a heart attack and left her his fortune to a tune of $13 million. Now, this is like early 1900s, $13 million. So this is a lot of money. And Perry was really, really generous with this money. She was not really in theater anymore at this point. She had a really hard time recovering from her husband's death. But she was giving money to playwrights and theaters when they needed help. If they needed help with a loan or if they were in a tight spot, she was giving money away. So still sort of producing theater, but more on the sidelines. After a few years, she did begin directing again, and she was wildly successful. Critics really touted her for doing a man's job really, really well. And she actually did a couple of really famous plays that then became really successful movies. So she made royalties for her whole life off of some of these early productions that she directed. The Great Depression hits, and she takes a hit as well, but she does continue to make theater. And while she continued to be a director and a producer, she really comes into her own when World War II begins. And she is a co-founder of what is now the American Theater Wing, which if you watch the Tonys, it always says, this is the American Theater Wing Tony Award. Before it was the American Theater Wing, it was called the Theater Wing Allied Relief, which operated a stage door canteen in the basement of the 44th Street Theater at that time. Here's a little picture of what that looked like. This is Betty Davis, quite literally Betty Davis, serving coffee to servicemen in the city. And it was a spot for the stars of the day to volunteer their time as waiters, waitresses, bus boys, anything like that, to support the troops. Money that was made fundraising in the name of this task was also used to send USO shows overseas for those soldiers who were fighting over in Europe. So that was a huge project that she took on with several other bigwigs. Rodgers and Hammerstein also hugely monumental in this movement. But this is where she really sort of makes her mark. After World War II, she continues to help fund new works. She co-founds a national acting school that is no longer running. This generosity did put her in a lot of debt, but she did continue to do this work even as she was sort of just compounding debt. She often supplemented the activities of the theater wing by gambling on horse races and putting that money towards that task. So she was very, very dedicated, if not a little bit in trouble to her life in the theater. She did also die very young. She died at the age of 58. And after she passed, her longtime collaborator and also secret lover, no one's really sure about that, proposed that the American Theater Wing give a yearly award in her honor for distinguished stage acting and technical achievement. And the first ever award in her name was presented in 1947. And when he presented it, he called it a Tony Award because her name was Antoinette and her nickname was Tony, and that just stuck. So from then on, it was the Tony Awards. Thank you, Antoinette Perry, for the legacy and for the name. So now we're going to fast forward all the way to 2025 to talk about this year's nominees. Gonna go through the female characters and then the male characters. These are all from, again, musical productions. So here are the nominees for leading performance for an actress in a musical this year. I'm gonna go from left to right of your screen. So at the top, in the blue dress here, we have Megan Hilty for Death Becomes Her. Just below, Audra McDonald, of course, for Gypsy. Above, we have Jasmine Amy Rogers for Boop, Nicole Scherzinger for Sunset Boulevard, and at the top right, Jennifer Samard also for Death Becomes Her. So these are the ladies who are nominated this year. These are all pictures from the show that they are currently performing in. And the gentlemen, of course, same thing here. I'm just going to give you the names and the titles here. Darren Criss at the top left there for Maybe Happy Ending. Just below him, Andrew Duran for Dead Outlaw. Tom Francis up top for Sunset Boulevard. Jonathan Groff in All That Blue for Just in Time. James Monroe Iglehart for A Wonderful World, the Louis Armstrong musical. And lastly, at the bottom right there, Jeremy Jordan for Floyd Collins. So I'm going to take you through most, not all of these names today and give you a little bit of background, some insider baseball stuff from these folks and their careers. And also I'm going to show some clips from the shows that they are currently nominated from, in case you don't know anything about these shows, give you a little bit of a sense of what they're doing. So first, as promised, the darlings, right? The people who have been on Broadway many times, the veterans of the industry. And we have to start with Audra McDonald, right? If you don't know any other name on these lists, you know her name. And here's a trailer for Gypsy.
You've got nothing to hit but the heights. I had a dream last night. I dreamt up a whole new act. Honey, everything's coming up roses. Some people sit on that butt. Got the dream, yeah, but not the guts. That's living for some. She's going to be a star.
If it kills you and her.
Let me entertain you, and we'll have a real good time.
Finished? We're just beginning, and there is no stopping us this time.
Audra, an iconic woman in an iconic role. Audra is really sort of the quintessential veteran of Broadway. She has a record-breaking 11 Tony nominations, the most of any person ever. She's won 6 Tonys, and she's the only person to have won in all 4 performance categories for musical and play, both leading and featured. She's obviously incredibly talented actress, a renowned singer. She has worked in the theater, television, film. She's also worked in opera, so she has quite a breadth of depth of her career. She grew up in Fresno, California. She graduated from a little place called Juilliard in 1993. And she graduated in 1993, but fun fact, she actually debuted on Broadway a year before that in 1992 as a replacement for Secret Garden, the musical on Broadway. Audra is really known for playing roles that are traditionally cast with white women. So she's really made a name for herself in these roles that she's maybe, I don't know if the first Black woman to play these roles, but certainly as in a place that's high profile like Broadway. Carousel, she was Carrie Pippage in Carousel pretty famously. This is another one. Gypsy has been played by every Broadway diva ever. Patti LuPone, Bernadette Peters, to name a few. And Audra is the first Black actress to play Rose on Broadway. And when the show first opened, people are paying attention to obviously this sort of Black version of Gypsy. It's directed by George C. Wolfe, who is a Black director. The entire sort of Rose family is Black, and the production nods at the the really rich history of vaudeville, and particularly how Black artists shaped that form of entertainment. So you saw the Joy Woods clip there, definitely a nod to Josephine Baker, who was very, very famous in this performance realm. So this production is saying something really specific that no other production of Gypsy has said before. And people are really applauding that attempt and have really enjoyed it. They definitely at first really applauded Audra's acting for this role, but her voice is really unique for what we expect to hear in this role. Because of her classical training, and she's a real classical soprano, Rose is very much a brass belt, traditionally a brass belt type of role, so she sounds a little bit different. It makes her performance stand out. Whether it fits your individual taste or not, it's really unique and deserves recognition. If you're into some backstage gossip about Audra and this role and Patti LuPone, Google Patti LuPone New Yorker interview if you haven't been paying attention to that saga. It's pretty it's pretty interesting. We're not going to go into it now, but if you want the backstage drama, Google that. And everyone sort of got their eyes on Patti and Audra as the Tonys approach this Sunday. Our second, darling, I got ahead of myself. So this is, okay, full disclosure, this is the show that I've seen this year, is Jeremy Jordan and Floyd Collins. I don't think he's gonna win, but I want him to win. I love this show. It's my favorite musical score probably of all time. His performance was stunning. So here's a little clip of Jeremy Jordan in Floyd Collins.
If I follow that sound, I could find what I'm looking for. It could be glory calling, calling. Come on, boy, you can do now. You can have what you dream on. Calling and coming back and coming clear. Calling is what I hear. No more plowing a hard scrabble field. I just know it's my lucky day. Do yo yo, do yo yo, do yo do yo do yo
Floyd Collins. Floyd Collins is based on the true story of a caver in Kentucky in the early 1900s who gets trapped underground while he's exploring a new cave near his home. This event inspired a national media frenzy that sensationalized the rescue efforts and him being trapped down there. Sadly, it is unsuccessful. Floyd actually passes away underground, and they are only able to retrieve him after he has died. But this musical tells that story in a really beautiful, poetic way. Jeremy Jordan, I kind of call him Broadway's heartthrob. He's not the most experienced person on this list, but he's had a really fantastic career. He's 40 years old, and he's just been starring in almost everything he's done since he started. He debuted on Broadway in Rock of Ages in 2009. But then pretty soon went out to play like titular roles in every show. So in Bonnie and Clyde, he starred in that in 2011 on Broadway. His most famous role probably is Newsies in 2012. He starred in Newsies. His performance in that show sort of catapulted him into like a cult following kind of stardom. That was when I graduated undergrad, 2012, but like all of the people in high school at that time were obsessed with Newsies and obsessed with Jeremy Jordan and have been ever since. So people have been rooting for Jeremy Jordan for a really long time. It's kind of funny. He's already played a lead role this year, as my slide suggests. He just left The Great Gatsby in the titular role there, in January to play Floyd Collins. So he's very, very busy, very, very talented. And right now he's on interviews, he's insisting he's got to stop playing roles that die at the end of the musical. That's his new goal. It's like, let's stop dying on stage, because that has been a really weird trend for him. But one thing for sure, he will continue to have a really successful career. As I said, I'm rooting for him. I'll be putting him on my ballot. I don't think he will necessarily, but win or no win, he's going to continue to do really great things. Inside of this Broadway Darlings category, I wanted to sort of pair some folks together. Probably unsurprisingly, I want to look at Megan Hilty and Jennifer Simard, who are co-starring in Death Becomes Her. They both got the nod in the leading actress category, which is not unheard of, but relatively rare. And so, first of all, to have a dual female-led musical is pretty awesome. So I'm really excited to see that they're both being recognized equally for their contributions to this very zany show. It is a favorite. It's been nominated for 10 Tonys this year. And according to like the podcasts that I listen to and my friends who have seen it, it's a favorite. It's going to take home quite a few. Death Becomes Her, I'll show a trailer in a second, but it's about two frenemies who are longtime rivals, and they take a potion for like eternal youth and beauty. And it is wild. It is physically comedic. It is outrageous. It's super fun. As you can see, maybe by these pictures, it's very glamorous. One of the things that's nominated is costume. Yeah. But these two are really phenomenal in this. People are likening them to like Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick and The Producers, right? They're hoping they're going to become an iconic comedic duo. In an interview, they sort of compared themselves to Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. And I'm going to show you a little clip of this. This clip also heavily features Michelle Williams, who is in this show, not nominated, but has a pretty significant role of Destiny's Child, and is also fabulous. So please enjoy. Maybe. Outrageous and over the top. I hope I get to see this one this summer. Another dynamic duo that's important. These two are not in the same show. Darren Criss is in Maybe Happy Ending, and Jonathan Groff is Just in Time. Maybe Happy Ending is about two, it's in the future in South Korea. It's about two helper bots. So they're robots, but they sort of find each other and find love. And it's about what does it mean to be human? And it sounds very strange, but this is another favorite, right, of the critics and the fans alike. I think this one is going to take home quite a few awards as well. It's intimate and it's sweet, but it's beautifully done. And then Jonathan Groff is starring in Just in Time, which is a jukebox musical about the life of the singer Bobby Darin. So it's a good time. One of the singers from the band Lawrence is also in that show, so it's great. I'm pairing these two together because if you are a theater nerd like me, you might have watched the show Glee once upon a time, and these two are both alum of that show. And this is the only time, or the first time, I guess, that two actors from Glee have been nominated in the same year. And so the Gleeks of the world are very excited about this, and they're hoping that at least one of their gentlemen will take home the prize. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I love the sort of alumni story of shows like Glee, as people keep rooting for those alum as they age and as they continue to grow as performers. I want to talk about two people who are relatively new to the scene as well, because we've talked about a lot of people who are well known and well established, but it's always really exciting to be celebrating someone who is brand new to Broadway. And Jasmine Amy Rogers is like the epitome of this. She is starring in Boop. She plays Betty Boop in the musical Boop. She's 26 years old and she is making her Broadway debut, starring and carrying this production on her shoulders. She went to school at Manhattan School of Music for maybe 2 years before she was plucked out of there and said, no, you're a star, you have to just kind of start performing. She's worked with Jerry Mitchell a lot, and Jerry Mitchell is the director and choreographer of Boop. So it's unsurprising to sort of see her continue that relationship with him and in such a successful way. I'm going to show you a clip for her, and I really want us to pay attention to this because Boop was not nominated for Best Musical, and so they're not going to perform at the Tonys, so this might be one of the only options for you to sort of see her work. There is an online petition going around, so if you want to sign that, you can, to see if we can get Boop added to the lineup on Sunday. We'll see if that happens. But her performance is absolutely stunning. She has so much left to give this industry: singing, dancing, acting, a true triple threat. And she actually co-won the Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Performance with Audra McDonald this year, just a week or so ago. So really cool to see the sort of newcomer and this veteran win this award together for the Drama Desks. And we'll see if the Tony Award goes in either direction this year, but please do watch her amazing work in Boop.
Okay, fellas, key of G. Wait, you're saying who is she? Yes, my goose has been cooked now. You're aggressively hooked now. 'Cause the last time I looked now, I'm where I wanna be. Keep your hands in Miami's. LA's Oscars and Grammys. Start unpacking my jammies. I'm where I wanna be. I'm where I wanna be. I'm where I wanna be. I'm where I wanna be.
That's flawless vocals and gorgeous dancing. So rooting for Jasmine Amy Rogers. The other up-and-comer here is Tom Francis. He's the same age, or not the same age, but he's born the same year as Jasmine Amy Rogers, so he's also very young. He's from across the pond. He's visiting us from England. He is reprising his role in Sunset Boulevard, which was first produced on the West End in London. This whole production was transferred from London to Broadway. But so this is his Broadway debut, but he did already win the Laurence Olivier Award for this performance, if that gives you a sense of how people are responding to him in this role. He is quite a talent. His voice is really stunning. In November, he did take a pause from this role due to a vocal cord injury, but thankfully has recovered and has returned. This production is really unique. Sunset Boulevard has been revived multiple times. Folks are really excited about this directorial approach to this show. So Jamie Lloyd, who is a British director, he is favored to win Best Director this year because of his work on this show. This performance is really interesting because he does, at the top of Act 2, Tom, as Joe in the show, goes out into the streets, into Schubert Alley, and they film and live stream part of his performance into the theater. And then he and the ensemble enter the theater together to start Act 2. And I found a TikTok video of some bystander like filming this on their phone, just to give you a sense of like the craziness that is this production and what Tom Francis has to do every night as in this role.
Clear a path, please, clear a path. Oh, I know.
The one you have to go. This is going live right now. Just stay where you are.
Keep it open, keep it open, keep it open, keep it open.
Gotta love the New York crowds. Just ignored. And you'll see the ensemble will start to join him. And that's essentially it. Obviously, we're going to talk about celebrities next, but that has never been done before on Broadway. It's just one of those crazy things about this production that's really, really cool. I'm honestly not sure if Tom Francis should get an award for that or if the stage management team should get an award for that, because they have to do that every night. And I think, frankly, that's the harder job, or the person with the camera who has to walk backwards. Really, really cool. It's closing soon. If you get a chance to see it, it's really, really quite something. Okay, our last little category, and there are no more videos, so I promise it'll be quick. Celebrities on stage, right? There have always been sort of film stars or pop stars that sort of like to dabble in Broadway when they can. And when I was growing up, when I was in my BFA, it was sort of like poo-pooed. It was like, this person isn't real, that they're not a real Broadway star, they're just like trying it for fun. And it was really looked down upon. I'm really happy to say that point of view has really shifted. Part of it is Broadway is bringing in people that really do the work and are really, really talented. But we're able to sell more tickets that way. And I know that stinks, like to sort of elevate capitalism in that way, but it is really important that people go see the shows. And from every nominated performance this year, really, really like is at the level of like true Broadway stars. So I'm happy to see that trend is changing. Normally back in the day, like a celebrity who was cast as a lead in a show wouldn't get a nomination. Like that just wouldn't happen. And now you can see so many of them are. So just to sort of blow through them, Nicole Scherzinger opposite Tom Francis in Sunset Boulevard. Nicole Scherzinger used to be in the pop group The Pussycat Dolls. She is on all accounts phenomenal in this show, both from a singing perspective and from an acting perspective. Really, really gorgeous. We also have Sadie Sink, who is starring in John Proctor is the Villain. I told you I'd get a play or two in there, I promised. She is, of course, famous for being in the hit show Stranger Things. I think she's also going to be in a Spider-Man movie soon. She had been on Broadway as a kid. Now she's back. As Stella mentioned, I just directed John Proctor as the Villain for Wilkes last fall. So I know that all of our department is really excited to see not only this nomination, but just to see that show be so celebrated on Broadway. We love doing the show, and we're excited to celebrate it on Sunday. Sarah Snook, another TV star. If you're a fan of Succession on HBO, she is making, I think it's her debut, in a solo version of The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is really interesting. Everyone who I know who has seen it just says, I can't describe it, but it was amazing. And they're thinking about it for weeks after the fact. But Sarah Snook is nominated for her performance in that play. And last but certainly not least, the George Clooney is making his actual debut on Broadway, believe it or not, in Good Night and Good Luck, which is about, I have the name of the person here, about a CBS journalist who sort of went head to head in the 50s with Senator Joseph McCarthy. There's a film by the same name that this play is based off of. George Clooney stars in it. He's also a major producer. What's really cool about this is this is the last week of its performance, but it is being broadcast live on CNN June 7th, this Saturday night. So the night before the Tonys, if you want a little warm up, you can catch this play broadcast live on CNN. That has never happened before on Broadway, ever. We've had those captures, so you can go on Apple TV and watch Come From Away, or you can go on Disney Plus and watch Hamilton, right? Netflix had Shrek for a while. We've had these pro shots. This is the first time a live performance will be streamed for free for everyone to see, which is really, really, really cool. It will then be on HBO. If you're like me and don't have cable, you can get it on HBO later. And And I would love to see more of this. I would love to see more of this happen for Broadway. Broadway, even though those of us who are local to Wilkes-Barre, the city is not that far. So you think, yeah, I can get in to see a show or two, but it is really, really hard and it's quite expensive. So I want to celebrate them for doing this. I hope more of this happens. And I hope that this entire presentation at least gives you something to be excited about this weekend, if either it's George Clooney's performance or it's the Tony Awards, and gives you a sense of what is available. If you are able to make it out to New York to see what's there, go see one of the performances we've talked about today. Go see a winner. Go see something that didn't win. If a performance grabs you on the Tonys, even if they don't win, go see it. Or even the shows that weren't nominated. Please go support theater. It's a really, really vital part of New York, and it's a really vital part of sort of the entertainment history of this country. So I hope that this talk has inspired you to watch the Tonys. I hope you have some favorites to root for now. And I think we're opening it to maybe a Q&A. Is that true?
Yeah, that sounds great. Does anyone have any questions for Alison?
I'm gonna stop my share here.
You're welcome to either unmute and ask or put something in the chat.
Nothing.
I'll ask about it. Has Smash the Musical been nominated for anything? Those of us who followed that show recognize Megan Hilty and Jeremy Jordan as having been cast on the show when it was on TV. But there weren't any leading actors or actresses. Is it up for any awards?
I believe it's up just for choreography.
Okay.
Otherwise, it may have a couple of other design oriented awards that I'm not aware of. It is kind of like the one big musical that's opened recently that sort of got the shaft, right? Which is really interesting because it has that sort of cult following from the TV show, as you mentioned. And I haven't seen it, so I'm not sure why that happened, but I hope that what's tough, the Tony Awards are sort of a commercial for Broadway. So I'm hopeful, I hope that not being as represented at the Tonys doesn't shut that show down, because that's always the fear, right? And undoubtedly, there's a Penn State alum who is starring in that show who I adore. So I'm rooting for her, and I hope that it stays open.
We have a question from Jacob. He asks, is there usually a general criteria to get nominated for a Tony?
Jacob, that's a really, really good question. Getting nominated for a Tony is really complex. So there's basically a group of people who decide, and these are all theater professionals, they decide what shows are eligible to be nominated, and then they go through a selection process to decide who is nominated, and then all of those people have to see all of those shows and all of those performances so that they can vote. And it is that committee that votes for who gets the award. So as you can imagine, it's a broad group, it's a diverse group with diverse experiences. So you get a little bit of everything as far as who's voting for who, but it's political too, as these things always are. The most important criteria is you have to be open by a certain date before the Tony Awards. That's the most important criteria for being eligible. I don't know what the specific date was for this year, but all of those people, as I said, have to have time to go see those shows. So that's why that cutoff date is really, really strict.
I think you touched on this a little bit as you went along, but if we had one weekend in New York, which 2 or 3 shows would be on the top of your list to see?
Well, like I said, I saw Floyd Collins and it's one of my favorite shows ever. It's not for everyone. It's not like flashy. So if you love to see a more like traditional over the top musical, don't go see Floyd Collins. If you're a music nerd, go see Floyd Collins. That score is stunning. I think Death Becomes Her, because it's so funny. I think you can't have a bad time going to see that show. I would go see also, there's so much that's good right now. It's so hard to pick. I would say Death Becomes Her, maybe Happy Ending. Those two have to be on your list. And then I would pick like maybe a play. after that, because those are sometimes they don't run for as long. So anything that is interests you in the realm of a play, whether it be John Proctor as the villain, Dorian Gray, Glengarry Ross is supposed to be great. The Hills of California is supposed to be phenomenal. Purpose is also really great. So there's some really good straight plays out there too.
Our next question from Caleb Flannery. He asks, as Death Becomes Her the first time that two female actresses from the same show have been nominated for Best Leading Role?
That's a really, really good question. I don't know if it's the first time, but it's happened very, very rarely. Um, like I think if I'm remembering my musical theater history, pretty famously, it didn't happen for Wicked, and that was, I think people were surprised by that. But I'd have to Google that. I'd have to look that up.
I think probably more often men, like Marilee, weren't Daniel Radcliffe and Jonathan Groff both nominated, but like you mentioned, it's kind of more rare for two women to get to co-star.
And that has more to do with what shows are out there and what roles exist. I don't think people don't want to nominate women. I just think shows are not written for duos of women. It's just not very, very common. So when it happens, it's great to see that they're being recognized.
Any other questions from anybody today? All right. Well, if you have any closing thoughts for us, Alison.
Oh gosh. Well, thanks for having me. And for allowing me to sort of nerd out about the things I'm excited about to see this weekend. I hope you watch. I hope you watch. It can feel a little, award shows can sometimes feel a little bit eye rolly and a little bit like political and this isn't real and we're not celebrating enough. But I have a lot of friends who are in shows that are nominated this year, and just the excitement is so palpable. And so if for no other reason that you want to support artists, do watch these awards and think about how excited they are, because they, like me, at 8 years old, dreamed about being in that room at Radio City, and now they're there. And that is like the coolest part about those awards. And then if you do want to see a show this summer, it's the best commercial to watch, because then you get to find out what is out and what you might enjoy.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of your insights. It sounds like your party is going to be fabulous, and we'll be looking forward to seeing who takes home the awards.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And as we mentioned earlier, the recording of this will be made available on our Wilkes Alumni YouTube channel. So if you want to share it out with any of your friends, we will send all of you the link to that as well. And thanks so much again, Alison.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.